Welcome Ralf Schlepfer, Markus Koch, authors of Deloitte's recently published white paper about the Swiss manufacturing industry. In this white paper you focused a lot on the Swiss mechanical and electrical engineering industry, and challenges and prospects for these industries were analyzed. Ralf Schlepfer, what are the most surprising insights of this analysis?
The foreign currency pressure was the main reason why the intensity of global competition increased overall for the Swiss manufacturing industry, and why the margins of companies were affected. It was surprising to hear, however, that quite a few companies resisted the pressure and were able to manage the negative effects of the strong Swiss francs very well. Fitness programs implemented in the wake of the recession 2008-2009 also helped. The ongoing pursuit of international operational improvement of some companies was really a successful strategy in this regard. It's also surprising how Swiss manufacturing companies perceive the danger of an increased innovation pressure. Every second company picks up on this and refers to the technological improved products of the competition, which puts the industry location Switzerland under pressure. Another surprise is how many companies started to move parts of their value chain abroad in the light of the strong Swiss francs, and are planning more offshoring and nearshoring in the coming years. In addition, many companies want to increase production abroad, partially at the cost of production here in Switzerland.
A lot of the companies that were interviewed by Deloitte stressed the importance of efficiency increases and cost reduction. Markus Koch, what are the most important measures for success in this regard?
Indeed, companies are telling us that efforts to reduce overhead and to optimize global sourcing are still dominating their landscape for efficiency improvements. This is somewhat surprising because many of these initiatives were already initiated in 2008 and 2009, and we see to a lesser extent initiatives which address political sensitive topics, for instance, where functional or regional leaders with contrary interests need to work together, for instance, for the establishment of shared service centers or for the consolidation of plants. Also, in terms of global sourcing, we see that many of the low-hanging fruits were harvested, such as consolidation of suppliers moving to the Eurozone and better processes to negotiate. This brings fast success. However, there's even bigger potential in the internal measures. For instance, improve the processes to avoid overspecification of requirements or better planning of demand such that orders can be placed with suppliers well in advance and therefore getting better prices. Overall, we see still a vast potential in improving the supply chains of the Swiss companies.
Everybody agrees that the development of new markets abroad will be central for the success of Swiss manufacturing companies. The global trend is clearly to have the production close to the customer. Will the production in the future mainly happen abroad, and will Switzerland be further deindustrialized?
90% of the interviewees really expect an increase of production facilities abroad in the next few years. And 82% expect a decrease of production facilities in Switzerland. This perception is a result of a build-up of production facilities close to customers in the new growth markets. However, it should not be automatically seen as a sign of an impending deindustrialization of the existing Swiss production locations. Growth will strengthen in emerging markets in the future. As a consequence of the build-up of closeness to customers, innovation will happen in those production facilities, and research and development will shift also abroad. To achieve growth at the industry location Switzerland, a strong focus on innovation efforts and value-added services and products is needed. Such services can be developed from an in-depth understanding of the customer industries.
Outside of Switzerland, the focus lies clearly on new markets. What are the best strategies to be successful in those markets?
First of all, we need to understand that growth markets is not only about BRICS. China, the growth is stagnating right now, flattening out, albeit on an absolute and relatively high level. And India, there's some backlog with reforms, and there is stagnating even more than China. There are many other growth markets which are at the brink of a growth surge. For instance, Mexico. Mexico is growing currently double of Brazil, and Mexico will replace China as the biggest exporter to the US in a few years. Companies have told me in Switzerland that they've missed the economic miracle in Turkey. This should not happen again for countries such as Indonesia and Colombia. So coming back to the initial question, what makes companies successful? And 2/3 of companies tell us that it needs local adaptations. I fully agree, and this is important, that this will be the solution in many cases. But there will be cases where this will not be sufficient. There will be cases where companies need to completely reinvent their products. Frugal engineering is the term here. And what we also understand and see more and more, that the efforts to make these locally developed solutions also available globally, and therefore accessing a new potential, new opportunities also for Swiss companies.
How fast do you expect changes to happen in the area of research and development for Swiss companies?
This change process goes hand in hand with production relocation. Development takes place at a production location, and research has a tendency to move to big production locations. The study shows an increase of these trends for the future. Half of the interviewees plan to invest further in R&D in the next few years. This is generally positive. However, an increased orientation abroad is noticeable. 55% of the interviewees believe that their R&D expenditures abroad will increase. Only 35% expect a similar increase in Switzerland. However, Switzerland has a long tradition of innovation as well as a good education. I'm thinking university like EPFL, ETH, as well as a technical apprenticeship. Swiss and foreign companies still appreciate Switzerland as a place for top-class research and still invest accordingly. Switzerland also remains an attractive location to source talent from all over the world.
That the Swiss mechanical and electrical engineering industries are suffering from a talent shortage. What are the insights from the study in this regard, and how can this problem be solved?
The shortage for talent is quite specific for the Swiss MEM industry in Switzerland due to the strong internal competition from the financial services industry, which over the last couple of years have been buying talent away through increased salaries from the ETH and the EPFL. Companies in Switzerland want to address this talent shortage by recruiting abroad. What we have to be aware of is that countries such as India and Brazil have even bigger problems in filling open positions than Switzerland as a country average. And we actually see, therefore, that migration is reversing. More people from Spain go back to Latin America than migrate to Latin America. More people from Mexico migrate from the US back to Mexico than from Mexico to the US. So companies must develop sound, creative strategies for the war of talent, to develop talent not only in Switzerland but also abroad, to be able to attract the top talent we need here for the innovation we heard about, to be successful in the long term.
Ralf Schlepfer, Markus Koch, many thanks for these interesting insights.